Uh-oh. By the way, if you want evidence of what I'm talking about, for that anti-billionaire rhetoric shit or whatever, holy f***. The reaction to the Katy Perry, whatever bullshit space ride, bro, people are unhinged. One thing that I've always had trouble understanding, okay, from you normie is if you don't like something, why not just like not watch it? Where does this like obsessive need to consume content and talk about things that you hate so much come from? I wish I could understand it more. Holy f***. 1 minute. Isn't it just because people feel good / validated by a communal sense of outrage? I don't know, like if rich people want to waste their money on, who the f*** cares? I just don't understand the immense hatred. And then I hate it even more because I know that the vast majority of people complaining are rich kids themselves. So then it just makes me upset. Bro, I am not making enough of these goddamn seeds. The issue is that stuff finds its way into people's algos no matter what. Does it? I didn't even know that there was any rocket ship going on until I saw something on Twitter today, I think, about it. It's good to put a spotlight on things that are bad. What's even bad about it, though? Like, who cares? Uh-oh. Audio. Oh, no. Can you explain what she did for those of us who are not terminally island? Blue Origin is like some... it's like a little spaceship that flies up kind of like past, I don't know, like the third layer of the atmosphere or some shit, and then people can experience zero gravity in like a space environment for a little bit. And then, but people just get super ass pain when they see, because like, oh, wealthy people just wasting their money on this. And it's like, oh, damn, I don't know, they're just, who cares? Money's probably going to go towards more research for the rocket, I imagine. And then, and I don't know, people want to spend their money on something. It's like, of all the things like a super wealthy person could spend their money on, it seems like that would be one of the least harmful things, no? I don't know, that's my feeling on it, but hey, you know. It's weird you can't understand this. Here is an extreme example. Imagine people going to Auschwitz to do a cake tasting commercial. Now scale that emotion down. Okay. That sounds about right. Oh, what's this guy doing? They record, oh my god. This person got their laptop. Changing seats. I can't even tell like who's more mad about the rocket situation. If it's like the angsty rich lefties who are on their anti-billionaire kick. I saw a whole bunch of threads being posted by people talking about how Katy Perry was the one that went up just to make fun of us because Katy Perry had a song about the earth being flat or something, or some song, and people like, oh, or something about some Illuminati shit, and people are like, oh, look, they're taunting us by pretending the earth isn't flat with Katy Perry. And I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck. Bro, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening?
Watch out. I feel like it's like a 1 in a million chance that it happens, but then once it happens once, it's gonna happen all the time.
No, it happened to Kelly. I was like 20 seconds out when that happened to you, and like my eyes were like, I was like so confused.
Is that bird? Yeah, the bird.
Oh, we have to look at it right now. Yeah,
You haven't seen the bird?
you handled it extremely well. I would not have handled it that well. Just for the record. It was so good. I'm like, that bird knew not to come to me.
The same bird.
Years ago, a mouse fell into the ground
Good.
from the ceiling. So.
Is it caught on video?
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah, the bird too. What's great about that though too, like my like 15 seconds on cam, they were trying to figure it out. See that? Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, that was worth it.
Right on. Oh yeah.
I did not like that at all.
It felt like just somebody pulling my hair.
Uh-oh. Kids are getting loud right before the bell rings.
Because I could see our hair. Otherwise, I would have thought I was being attacked. I would have, yeah, gone down. Never happened with Commander Biden was here to get all the critters away.
I'm monochromatic. I know. We're kind of matching. It's like fading.
So fun. Look at the pinned comment. There is no comment. Oh, in Kick Chat. Okay, I'm doing it right now, okay? What do you even... What the fuck? Okay, channel points are on, but I don't know what the fuck these rewards are. I'll figure it out though. That's on 4chan getting fucked? Oh yeah, so they got hackerinoed. RIP!
No, she's on the hill. Yeah. Her, last time, her walking we all left at the time, I was scared. We were listening to wrestling.
We still have a lot of time.
We still have a lot of time. True.
Did you? Was that with the first one?
The first one.
Lady got an email to self-deport. Yeah, apparently a lot of those have been going out. I got 2 emails from fans asking me if they were, like fake, if they were scams or whatever. And then I've seen posts on Reddit about it. I don't know if those are real or not. But apparently the federal government's just emailing a ton of people with visas or random shit to tell them to leave the country. Is that actually real or?
Attention.
Apparently an immigration
Will begin in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Listen to them laughing and joking about the end of the Republic.
Who, me? You go tell them. They don't listen to me.
Yeah, they do. They watch
Somebody said Dr. Mike pushed back on nicotine.
Have been smoking for 45 years and they're living a healthy life, and they say it's because I smoke. And obviously we laugh about it because we all agree that it's not true. So why did this one case move you so?
Actually, let me stop you right there. Probably it's because he smoked that he's doing so well.
Ooh.
Okay, we need to back up. How do we get there?
Well, I have a whole chapter in Gut Check looking at the healthiest, longest living people. And one of the unique features of most of the blue zones is that particularly the men are heavy smokers. And the smoking, actually the nicotine in cigarettes, is one of the best mitochondrial uncouplers that's ever been discovered. And
Mitochondrial uncoupler. Why does I feel like anytime I hear something that talks about mitochondria, it's almost always bullshit. Also, same thing with the gut biome shit. I feel like we started investigating that and it was like cool for a little bit. And then everybody started to make the most like insane fucking like gut biomes became like the new chiropractic of the medical world or something. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
And we've looked at this through the wrong lens. We said, wow, what other healthy lifestyle things are these guys doing that's preventing smoking from harming them? In fact, we should have looked at it the other way. What is it about these people who are smokers that allows them to live to 105, 110 years old? And when you do that, then you say, okay, smoking was good for them. Why don't we see the oxidative stress that smoking, we all know, occurs? Why don't we see the cancers in these people? And it's because the rest of their diet facilitates the absorption of the oxidative stress in these guys.
So your state is that if you smoke but eat in this specific way, you can negate the effects of smoking, the negative effects of smoking.
Yeah, what's fascinating as a heart surgeon, way back in the good old days, most of our patients were smokers. And they had specific proximal lesions in their coronary arteries. The rest of their blood vessels were absolutely gorgeous. And they were skinny for the most part. So
How did you gauge that? Did you...
What do you mean? We operate on.
But you operate on what other vessels that you saw? Like you would do peripheral arterial disease screenings on those patients? Yeah. And you would find...
I used to operate on...
Because one of the
blood
number
vessels.
one risk factors for peripheral arterial disease is smoking.
Correct, because the smoking, the oxidative stress, isn't stopped by our current diet. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
We're one of the few animals that don't make vitamin C. And vitamin C,
Yikes,
and I've written about this. So normally, unfortunately, collagen breaks as blood vessels flex and contract, and it breaks primarily at bends. And when that collagen breaks, vitamin C normally rebuilds that collagen. In smokers, they don't have vitamin C because the vitamin C has been used up in handling the oxidative stress. So they have basically raw collagen that sits out, and then we start the process of an inflammatory attack, and cholesterol is basically a spackling compound, and just keep spackling that area. The great news about smoking is that it always happens at these bends where flexion occurs. If, like these people in the blue zones who live a very long time as smokers, if you have huge amounts of vitamin C containing foods in your diet, and incidentally, olive oil doubles our own vitamin C production, which is kind of cool, then you mitigate those effects and you don't see the negative effects of smoking. You actually see the positive effects of nicotine.
Is there research that backs up where if you change someone's diet to have high vitamin C content, that there negates their risk of smoking? Because I've never seen that.
Yeah, that's all been done in the blue zones.
Well, blue zones are not research studies. In fact, you've been quite critical of blue zones, even in your book.
Yeah, for instance, let's take Sardinia, for example. Blue zones. Only the people who live up in the mountains actually have longevity. The people who live down by the water don't. What's different about those people is that they are sheep herders and goat herders. And what they eat is a large amount of fermented sheep cheese, sheep yogurt. And what makes them have longevity is that the men, 95% of the men smoke, and only 25% of the women don't. What's unique is, as we all know, women live about 7 years longer than men.
Cringe.
The men in Sardinia have 7-year longer lifespan than the women because they're smokers. That's what
But
brings
that's
them
an
up.
incredible conclusion to come to.
Same with the Catawbans.
But I'm saying, like, there's so many variables that influence one's life. How are you isolating the one? We have trouble isolating anything in research.
Look at the Catawbans. Stefan Lindenberg spent his life studying the Catawans in Papua New Guinea. They smoke like fiends. They've never had a documented case of a stroke or coronary.
Not sounding very scientific anymore.
Never had a documented case of lung cancer.
I'm confused how, in this scenario, we're using blue zones as an example for this. But then in your book, you point out that in Okinawa, you feel that the blue zone is untrue because they may be trying to collect pensions and their family members are not reporting their deaths appropriately. So how, on one hand, are you using blue zones as a form of backing up what you're saying versus other times saying it's actually the whole thing?
I'm talking about coronary artery disease and longevity.
Right.
So these people don't have coronary artery disease, despite the fact that they're smoking. So I'm saying we should actually look at this backwards and say, wait a minute, all these people are smokers. Is there a benefit to smoking, to nicotine? I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I've never had a cigarette in my life. But we negate the fact that maybe we're missing a positive benefit. For instance, the reason I poo-poo the blue zones is because Dan Butner would like to convince us the grains and beans are the secret of longevity.
Yeah,
And since you brought up Okinawan, they don't eat grains and beans. They don't eat rice. 85% of their diet is a purple sweet potato. They don't eat soy unless it's fermented. They don't eat tofu. They eat miso and natto, which are fermented soy. And they get the benefits of the fermentation. So, give you another.
Okay, this guy sounds retarded. Where is my press conference? If this were true, then wouldn't the big tobacco companies back in the 60s discover the health benefits? How the fuck did the people most incentivized to find benefits fail to find any? Good question. A question that one might say would really make you think. I'm just never going to have rich jelly stem farms. You know what? I'm okay with it. I don't care. Fuck it. What are they going to announce in the press conference? It's just going to be our daily propaganda slop. Same as always. Same as always. Trump truths. Our farmers are great, but because of their greatness, they are always put on the front line with our adversaries, such as China. Whenever there is a trade negotiation, or in this case, a trade war, the same thing happened in my first term. China was brutal to our farmers. These patriots to just hold on. I think he missed a word. I need these patriots just to hold on, and a great trade deal was made. Or I asked these patriots to just hold on. I rewarded our farmers with a payment of $28 billion all through the China deal. It was a great transaction for the USA until crooked Joe Biden came in and didn't enforce it. China largely reneged on the deal, only buying a portion of what they agreed to buy. They had zero respect for the crooked Biden administration. The USA will protect our farmers. So he's going to subsidize them again. It's such a joke, dude. It's a joke. It's a joke. Joke, 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 joke. DEI farmers. Subsidize. Trump was so unhealthy that he dodged the draft, but now he's at peak physical fitness. True. Looks like that guy's getting his nicotine. Got him. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kathy. You're welcome, Kathy. We got you. We got you, babe. Oh shit. Nah, it's okay. Yeah, she's out there saying her daily prayer. True. Oh, I never... Oh, I just realized some shit. There we go.
Until the briefing. 2 minutes until the briefing.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Good luck, guys. The elites are laughing at you. Wait, I got a new blue soda. I want to try. 1 second. I'm so hype. Don't start yet, Pam. Or, I mean, not Pam. Fuck. What's her first name? Wait, what's this lady's first name again? Caroline. That's it. KK Caroline. Oh, I have this is the bluest blue thing I've ever taken in my life. Is it normal to have press briefings every day, or is this just a moronic Trump thing? Leave it to the libs to complain about transparency. You prefer a hybrid model or a single payer in the U.S.? I think in the United States, I feel like a multi-payer hybrid model would work better. I should. MAGA are protecting Tesla dealerships? god. Oh my god. So brave. Yes. America. True patriots. Oh my god.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We're getting those limbs. Hell yeah. Where the fuck are my... Oh, Jesus.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh my
I
god!
apologize for my tardiness, but I came directly from the Oval. I have some newsy updates to share from the president, which I know you all very much value and appreciate.
Oh,
so
we
let's
do.
get to it. The president promised millions of Christians across the country on the campaign trail that he would create a White House faith office when he returned to the White House, and he has delivered on that promise.
Yes!
The White House Faith Office has put together an extraordinary week-long celebration currently underway for Holy Week ahead of Easter Sunday. The president signed a Holy Week proclamation, filmed a special presidential video message, and will be hosting a pre-Easter dinner tomorrow night and a White House staff Easter worship service on Thursday.
Worship?
The president and the First Lady are honored to continue the tradition of the White House Easter egg roll, which will take place on the South Lawn next Monday. In other news, President Trump is turning America into a manufacturing superpower again. Yesterday, there was a monumental announcement by NVIDIA, one of the largest companies in the world. This is just the latest example. For the first time ever, chip-making giant NVIDIA will produce AI supercomputers entirely in the United States as part of its pledge to produce $50 billion worth of AI infrastructure in our country over the next 4 years. With their manufacturing partners, they have commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test NVIDIA Blackwell chips in the great state of Arizona and AI supercomputers in the great state of Texas. NVIDIA's founder and CEO Jensen Huang touted how the engines of the world's AI infrastructure are being built in the United States for the first time.
Wow.
This is the Trump effect. This follows trillions in other U.S. investments announced already, including $500 billion from Apple in U.S.-based manufacturing and training, $100 billion from TSMC and U.S.-based chips manufacturing, and the $500 billion private investment led by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank in artificial intelligence infrastructure. Under President Trump, we're going to produce the cars, the ships, the chips, the airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America at the hands of American workers. On the border, President Trump continues to break records and protect our homeland. According to CBP, Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border for the entire month of March 2025 were lower than the first 2 days of March 2024 under Joe Biden.
Wow.
Incredible law enforcement officers are arresting violent illegal aliens from American communities every day. Here are a few examples from the latest ICE report, which I received
Read me my
this morning.
daily immigrant bad
ICE Los
story.
Angeles arrested
Yes.
a 54-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of rape by threat, sodomy with a person under 14 years, and kidnapping in San Jose, California. ICE Houston has arrested a 23-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. ICE Houston arrested a 64-year-old citizen of Honduras convicted of murder in Los Angeles County, California. ICE Chicago arrested a 49-year-old citizen of Guatemala convicted of assault and arson in Prince Williams, Virginia.
There's some
not
bad
far from
hombres.
here. ICE Denver arrested a 36-year-old citizen of Mexico who is registered as a sex offender and has been convicted of sexual assault of a child in Lake County, Colorado. ICE Baltimore arrested a 50-year-old citizen of China convicted of sex trafficking in Bel Air, Maryland. And ICE Boston arrested a 46-year-old citizen of Jamaica convicted of 3 counts of rape of a child and 2 counts of indecent assault and battery of a child under 14 in Boston, Massachusetts. President Trump and our administration will not rest until every single violent, illegal alien is removed from our country.
One.
The safety of the American people is too important to settle for anything less.
True. Thank you.
On that note, the Democrat and media outrage over the deportation of Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland, has been nothing short of despicable.
Wow.
Based on the sensationalism of many of the people in this room, you would think we deported a candidate for Father of the Year.
Wow.
That's because, unfortunately, many in this country care more about this quote-unquote Maryland father, illegal alien MS-13 gang member, than a Maryland mother and an American citizen who was brutally murdered at the hands of a different illegal alien. Of course, I am referring to Rachel Morin.
Reporting.
And if you didn't see yesterday, a Maryland jury found illegal alien Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez guilty of murdering Rachel Morin in August of 2023. She was a 37-year-old mother of 5 who was jogging in an otherwise safe community northeast of Baltimore when this monster ambushed, strangled, and beat her to death.
What does this have to do with Abrego Garcia? Are we just attributing every random immigrant crime to him?
Or? Finally got justice yesterday, but they will never get Rachel back. Our hearts go out to Rachel's family, her 5 children, and her mother, Patty, who has suffered the unimaginable loss of her daughter. In case you missed it last week, President Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum directing federal agencies administering federal land on the border to make land available to the Defense Department in a new national defense area. This followed the president's Day 1 executive order committing his administration to marshal all available resources and authorities to stop the unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into our country and to obtain complete operational control of the borders of the United States of America. Once again, the president is fulfilling another key promise. This new national defense area spans more than 170 miles across our border in New Mexico, but in the coming weeks, this administration will add more than 90 miles in the state of Texas. This national defense area will enhance our ability to detect, interdict, and prosecute the illegal aliens, criminal gangs, and terrorists who were able to invade our country without consequence for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. It will also bolster our defenses against fentanyl and other dangerous narcotics that have been poisoning our communities. With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue to see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high. That's because the president is working tirelessly to keep his promises to the American people, as I just saw him doing today in the Oval Office. We have a reporter in our new media seat today, Matthew Foldy. I like your boots, Matt. Who is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Washington Reporter is a new, fast-growing outlet that breaks stories about legislation and interviews leaders in Congress and across the administration. The publication's readership includes the highest levels of business and government. And with that, please kick us off, Matt.
And we've interviewed you as well. So, Caroline, thanks so much for having me here.
Thank you, Caroline.
Our readership and the millions of Americans who I think appreciate what you're doing with the new media seat here and making this a more accessible briefing room. I'm curious with Harvard. We saw the Trump administration today announce it's cutting around $2 billion, or freezing $2 billion in funds to Harvard because the campus has serious problems with violence,
huge problems,
anti-Semitism. We saw Obama, former President Obama, side with Harvard, which rejected the Trump administration's demands. I'm curious, where does the administration see this going with Harvard and with other colleges and universities in America that are refusing to reform in wake of the sort of craziness that we've seen take over some of them?
Thank you, Matt, for being here, and thanks for the question. When it comes to Harvard, the president's position on this is grounded in common sense, in the basic principle that Jewish American students, or students of any faith, should not be illegally harassed and targeted on our nation's college campuses. And we unfortunately saw that illegal discrimination take place on the campus of Harvard. There are countless examples to prove it, particularly with the stunning confession by then Harvard President Claudine Gay, who said that bullying and harassment depended on the context. The president at that time made it clear to the American public he was not going to tolerate illegal
That was one of the
harassment
dumbest
and anti-Semitism
congressional
taking place
anythings
in
ever.
violations
That lady,
of federal
holy
law.
fuck,
So
she was stupid.
the president made it clear to Harvard, follow federal law, no longer break Title VI, which was passed by Congress to ensure no student can be discriminated against on the basis of race, and you will receive federal funding. Unfortunately, Harvard has not taken the president or the administration's demands seriously. All the president is asking, don't break federal law, and then you can have your federal funding. I think the president is also begging a good question. More than $2 billion out the door to Harvard when they have a more than $50 billion endowment. Why are the American taxpayers subsidizing a university that has billions of dollars in the bank already? And we certainly should not be funding a place where such grave anti-Semitism exists.
And I'm curious, you had just mentioned Rachel Warren. And, I'm a Maryland man, and I think most Marylanders appreciate what you were saying today. We've seen that Chris Van Hollen, who was Rachel Warren's senator, basically threatening to fly to El Salvador to press for the release of someone who was in America illegally. And not as much sort of from him about Rachel Warren's horrific murder and the verdict that was, I think, rightly reached yesterday. What does the administration think about the priorities we're seeing from Senate Democrats in terms of illegal immigrants instead of the work that agencies like ICE and DHS are doing with the Trump administration?
Glaze up.
It's
Any Glazers in the chat?
mind-boggling, the priorities of the modern-day Democrat Party. I think it's atrocious that you have Democrats in Congress on Capitol Hill who swear an oath to protect their constituents and to serve them in Washington, D.C., spending more time defending illegal immigrant gang members than their own constituents and law-abiding American citizens like Rachel Warren. And I saw the president personally on the campaign trail, and I continue to see him in his role as president of the United States, put American families first, reach out to the victims, the families of victims at the hands of illegal immigrant crime, and frankly, the actions and the words of the Democrat Party prove they could not care less about the American public. And maybe if they did, they'd see a bit higher approval ratings.
Oh, hit him in the rating, right in the ratings. Again.
Follow up on something that you just said. Why do Ivy League schools get so much federal funding?
Why do they get any money?
It's a very good question, and it's a question the president has obviously raised in his discussions and negotiations with not just Harvard, but also Columbia and many other Ivy League institutions. We have the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which the president promised and delivered on. The Anti-Semitism Task Forces across the government, representatives from various federal agencies who meet on a weekly basis to discuss the question that you just raised. And I think a lot of Americans are wondering why their tax dollars are going to these universities when they are not only indoctrinating our nation's students, but also allowing such egregious illegal behavior to occur.
Yikes.
To follow up on immigration, deporting American citizens
based
to Central America
or not based?
Is it legal, or do you need to change the law to do it?
Well, it's another question that the president has raised. It's a legal question that the president is looking into. And he
Deporting
talked about this yesterday.
American citizens, by the way.
President Bukele in the Oval Office. He would only consider this if legal for Americans
thank
who
God,
are the
only
most
if it's legal.
Violent, egregious,
and the most
repeat
violent
offenders
Americans.
of crime who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
Gotcha. That's good.
This CHNV thing.
We're just
President
deporting
Biden
people
led
now.
More than
Yes.
530,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela into the U.S. with this CHNV program. He did it with the stroke of a pen. And now a judge will not let President Trump undo it with the stroke of a pen. So are you guys going to give all 530,000 plus people individual deportation hearings, or are you just going to try to deport them?
Yeah, can we really do
I spoke
due
to White House
process
counsel's
for
office
everyone?
about this morning, because obviously another rogue district court judge is
all
trying
of
to
them?
block the administration's mass deportation efforts
That'd be
with this
crazy.
latest injunction. We will fight this in the court of law, and we will ensure that every individual who illegally entered our country and was really taken advantage of by the previous administration because they abused the parole system in this country to fast track legal status, as they said, for these illegal immigrants. And they completely abused our legal system. Many of these paroled individuals were then given temporary protective status, which the intention of that TPS was only supposed to be used in times of war or storm or destruction in the home countries of these
war
migrants.
powers.
It was completely abused. These migrants came here for economic reasons, and they illegally entered our country, and the president is not going to tolerate that. And so we will continue to focus on deporting as many individuals
Anything but
as
that.
we can. Jennifer.
One on tariffs and one on Russia. Can you give us any sort of an update on which deals are in hand or are close? Which countries are reaching a deal on tariffs? And then on Russia, can you give us an update on what the agreement was with Russia? The president yesterday said that he thinks we'll be seeing some very good deals very soon. Can you talk a little bit about what Russia agreed to?
Come on, we can't.
I don't want to get ahead of our United States Trade Ambassador and Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Treasury, all the great individuals who are working incredibly hard to cut these good trade deals. And the president's deeply involved in this as well. He has made it clear to his trade team he wants to personally sign off on all of these deals too. And so I don't want to get ahead of them on announcements. But obviously, as you've heard from numerous administration officials, there have been many talks with countries. We've had more than 15 deals, pieces of paper put on the table, proposals that are actively being considered. And as we've said consistently, more than 75 countries have reached out. So there's a lot of work to do. We very much understand that, but we do believe that we can announce some deals very soon.
And then on Russia, can you say, did Russia agree to anything with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff?
I don't want to get ahead of those negotiations as well. What I can tell you is that they were a productive conversation was had. As the presidential envoy Steve Witkoff said last night, he believes that Russia wants to end this war, and the president believes that as well. There is incentive for Russia to end this war, and perhaps that could be economic partnerships with the United States, but we need to see a ceasefire first, and the president and the presidential envoy Witkoff made that very clear to the Russians. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. And I also want to thank your press office for releasing that information that you cited up there regarding the ICE arrests over the last couple of days.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I have them right here, but what I might ask is, why not release the same information for those who were deported to El Salvador?
Well, first of all, that information was released by the Department of Homeland Security. The individuals on the flights to El Salvador
Who is this guy?
Are foreign terrorists, and those are counterterrorism operations. They are much different than the arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS, though.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities. It's two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian, go ahead.
Got him.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Caroline.
Does the president support raising the corporate tax rate to pay for all these other tax cuts he wants to see move through Congress?
Look, I've seen this idea proposed. I've heard this idea discussed, but I don't believe the president has made a determination on whether he supports it or not.
And then secondly, do you have any information on the status of Eden Alexander? Hamas says they lost contact with the unit guarding him following an Israeli airstrike earlier today.
I don't have updates. I have not seen that report, but I can certainly check in with our National Security Council. I have spoken to the president about Eden Alexander, and he's made it very clear to our national security team that finding him is a priority, but unfortunately I don't have any updates to share. But it's a very important matter, and certainly we can check in.
We'll figure it out, guys.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge could hold a Trump administration official in contempt of court for defying deportation orders?
We are complying with all court orders. So I see what you're trying to do there with that question, but we're very confident that every action taken by this administration is within the confines of the law, and we continue to comply with the court's orders. And you have seen that, and the president made that clear yesterday in the Oval Office with President Bukele. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. Could you, just going back to El Salvador, could you just explain to us a little bit more about the legal basis on which you may be able to send US citizens to prison there? I know you said that President Trump is looking at it, but can you explain to us a little bit more about how that might be possible?
We're looking at it, and when I have more for you to share, I certainly will.
Got him.
Sure.
Still going off the El Salvador questions, yesterday in the Oval Office, administration officials made it very clear that El Salvador is responsible for Mr. Abrego Garcia, yet El Salvador's president said we're not going to do anything with him. So my question is, who is responsible for this man and where he's going to end up?
Well, no. First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do.
Wow.
Abrego Garcia was a foreign terrorist. He is an MS-13 gang member. He was engaged in human trafficking. He illegally came into our country. And so deporting him back to El Salvador was always going to be the end result. There
That's
is
not
never
true,
going
by the
to
way.
be a world in which this is
Explicitly
an
not what the court
individual who's
order
going to live a peaceful
2019
life
said,
in Maryland,
but
because he is a foreign terrorist and a MS-13 gang member. Not only have we confirmed that, President Bukele yesterday in the Oval Office confirmed that as well. So he went back to his home country, where he will face consequences for his gang affiliation and his engagement in human trafficking. I'm not sure what is so difficult about this for everyone in the media to understand, and it's appalling, truly appalling, that there has been so much time covering this alleged human trafficker and this gang member, MS-13 gang member. It's truly striking to me. Karen.
Thanks, Caroline. The president was posting on Truth Social today about helping American farmers. And last week in his cabinet meeting, he was talking about a plan to work with farmers to retain workers who are in the U.S. illegally, provided that they leave and then come back through what he said would be a legal process. Can you give details on what that would look like? How many workers he's talking about? How long a plan like that would take to implement, and the timeline for more details on getting this actually to implementation?
I can check in with our immigration and our policy team and get you some more details on that, Karen.
And is this something he wants to roll out soon? I mean, he was talking back and forth with Secretary Rawlings.
Right.
This is kind of imminent that he wants to do this.
Yeah, look, the president is in constant communication with all of his cabinet secretaries, particularly Secretary Rawlings, who has the backs of American farmers and ranchers. It's something that he spoke about with her in the front of all the cameras in the cabinet room, but I'll check in with not only our immigration team, but also with USDA, and we'll get you an answer. John.
Okay.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, it's good to see you in here.
You too. The president has long said that it would be an abuse of power for a president to direct prosecutors to investigate him. Last week, President Trump explicitly directed the Justice Department to scrutinize Chris Krebs to see if it can find any evidence of criminal wrongdoing.
Yeah, because he might be a criminal.
How is that not an abuse of power?
Oh my God, he's a
direct the Justice
criminal.
Department to look into an individual, a named individual.
Look, the president signed that executive order. It's the position of the president in this White House that it's well within his authority to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed it.
I got him.
And that's his policy.
Boom.
Jeff, how you doing?
Fine, thanks, Caroline.
Thanks for the
follow-up
non-answer
on Harvard.
at all.
The president floated on Truth Social, I believe, the possibility of removing tax-exempt status. How serious is that threat, and are there other universities he's considering? And then a follow-up question on foreign policy. Can you give us an update on what the president hopes to come from the next round of talks with Iran?
Sure. First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear. They must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students. There were professors who said that he had engaged in discriminatory behavior against Jewish students. Of course, you had the former president of the university saying bullying and harassment depends on the context. You also had an encampment on Harvard Yard that we all saw play out before the cameras. The university failed to impose formal discipline on any students for this anti-Semitic conduct violations, including the occupation of a campus building and the disruption of classes with bullhorns. The president believes Harvard should apologize to its Jewish American students for allowing such egregious behavior. As for the tax-exempt status, I would defer you to the IRS for any updates. I do want to answer your question on Iran. Of course, the maximum pressure campaign on Iran continues, but as you know, the president has made it clear he wants to see dialogue and discussion with Iran while making his directive about Iran never being able to obtain a nuclear weapon quite clear. And the president spoke to the Sultan of Oman today, who helped facilitate these talks. I have a readout for all of you.
Oman mentioned.
He held a call with the Sultan of Oman today, and he thanked him for hosting the first direct meeting between the United States and Iran, and emphasized the need for Iran to end its nuclear program through negotiations. The two leaders also discussed the United States' ongoing operations against the Houthis and emphasized that the Houthis will pay a severe price until they end their attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea. As you know, an additional negotiation between Steve Witkoff and Iran's representative has been scheduled for Saturday. And since these are ongoing negotiations, I have nothing more to add on that.
Thanks about Iran.
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. When you said that the president said that Iran will never have nuclear weapon, is the focus on dismantling the entire nuclear program, or it just restricting enriched uranium or the missile program?
The president does not want to see Iran have a nuclear program. He does not want Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been very clear about this. Shelby.
Got him.
Shelby, you have a seat today.
I know. Stole it.
Glad to see it.
Two quick ones on TikTok. First, is the president expecting to extend the TikTok ban that's now June 19th if China doesn't come to the table in time?
Well, June 19th is a long ways away, obviously. I think it's 2 months away. 2 months is a long time in the Trump administration, as you have all seen. We work at Trump speed around here. We get a lot done, so definitely don't want to get ahead. The vice president continues to lead these negotiations and talks. The president's involved.
The translation, we have no fucking idea.
The president previously said he'd consider reducing tariffs on China in order to get a TikTok deal done. Is that option still on the table?
Look, the president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office. The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer.
Damn.
Or to put it another way, they need our money.
Damn.
So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America. Sure.
On tariffs, yesterday in the Oval Office...
Which outlet are you with?
The Canadian Public Broadcaster.
Oh, nice to see you.
Thank you. Yesterday in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office when they see him almost every day, but the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you there, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility, and he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first.
Yes.
And we had automakers
in front of your loser workers
at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America, and the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. One on Ukraine and one on China. On Ukraine, this past weekend, Zelensky offered an invitation to President Trump, extending an offer for him to visit Ukraine. Just wondering if there's any update on that. Has Trump seen that offer and what he's thinking about?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't talked to the president about that, or if he saw Zelensky's offer. I'm sure he did. I haven't spoken to him about it. I can ask him what he thinks. I certainly don't have any plans to share on a potential trip to Ukraine, though.
And then on China, this last week, Chinese officials were posting videos on social media sites depicting Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, in AI-generated videos working in factories, putting together Nike shoes and iPhones and products like that.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Does the White House, have they seen these videos? Do you guys have a response to that?
I have seen the videos.
Our own meme
I'm not
team
sure who made the videos,
is working on it.
Or if we can
They're
verify
working
the
on a response.
authenticity. But whoever made it clearly does not see the potential of the American worker, the American workforce. The president believes in the American people, and he knows that we have the best not only
Memes.
consumer base in the world, but also the best workforce in the world, and that's why he's so focused on
We're really just going to
bringing
give up the
investments
meme
home
war?
and,
We're just going to
shoring up
sacrifice
our critical supply chains and bolstering
our
our
meme
manufacturing
superiority
here
like
as
that?
well.
Okay, whatever.
Brett.
Would the president support a ban on members of Congress trading stocks?
Shut up.
I'm certain that's something the president would be interested in looking at, and I can ask him if he would support such a bill. Sure. Yes.
I have a question about the president's posting this morning on farmers. He asked farmers to be patient and just hold on. But a lot of farmers that I've talked to in the last week or so have said
no
they're in the
patience.
middle of spring planting season and that a trade war makes everything sort of up in the air. What would his message?
We'll subsidize them,
to
don't worry.
be?
Give
And
them a
also,
whole
is
bunch of
there
money
anything
again.
Specifically planned to provide relief like in President Trump's last term?
Yes, well, relief is being considered. The Secretary of Agriculture, I know, has spoken to the president about that, and again, it's being considered. And as for the president's message to the farmers, he put it out himself. He could speak for himself much better than I can speak for him, and so I would just direct you to the statement he
tweets.
had, telling the farmers again and reiterating his support for them and that he has their backs, which he certainly does. Kelly, in the back.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions. The first one, a Georgia man was just arrested over alleged threats to kill Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Reportedly, there is now increased security around the FBI Deputy Director. Can you talk about the level of threats against various administration officials, and then a second one on Biden?
I'm sorry to hear that. I had not seen that report. It's very unfortunately, and obviously the White House, the president, and the entire administration condemn any threats of violence against any administration officials or public officials on both sides of the aisle here in Washington, D.C. It shouldn't be tolerated, and we commend the local law enforcement agencies for arresting this individual.
Former President Biden, he's set to deliver his first major speech since leaving office tonight. He plans to talk about what I'm told will be Social Security under the current administration, closing of offices, longer wait times, harder for seniors and people with disabilities to access earned benefits, is what Democrats have been saying today. I wanted to get the
Biden's
president's
speech.
response, or if he plans to respond to this, and comments on what Democrats are calling cuts to Social Security.
My first reaction when seeing former President Biden was speaking tonight was, I'm shocked that he is speaking at nighttime. I thought his bedtime was much earlier than his speech tonight. I understand the topic of his speech will be Social Security. Let me make it very clear ahead of former President Biden's remarks. President Trump, is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program.
A lot of qualifiers.
He will always protect that program. He campaigned on it, he protected it in his first term, and he's back again to continue protecting it. On the topic of Social Security, I have some news before I let you all go. Later this afternoon, the president will be signing a presidential memorandum aimed at stopping illegal aliens and other ineligible people from obtaining Social Security Act benefits. The memorandum will
Are they
direct
not
the
gonna do, like,
administration
survivors'
to ensure
benefits, or
ineligible
what are they
aliens
implying
are
there?
not receiving funds from the Social Security Act programs. It will expand the Social Security Administration's fraud prosecutor program to at least 50 U.S. attorney offices and establishes a Medicare and Medicaid fraud prosecution program in 15 U.S. attorney offices.
Oh, more bureaucracy.
The memorandum
Yes.
will also require the Social Security Administration Inspector General to investigate earning reports for individuals aged 100 or older with mismatched Social Security records to combat identity theft. And the memorandum will direct the Social Security Administration to consider whether to reinstate the use of civil monetary penalties against individuals who engage in Social Security fraud, an effort that has been paused for several years. These taxpayer-funded benefits should be only for eligible taxpayers. And President Biden should think about what he did in his last term, which is allow tens of millions of illegal people into our country, many of whom were fraudulently receiving these benefits. So you'll hear from the president on that later, and we will see you later in the East Room. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Caroline.
Bye. Well, that was boring. Okay, supposedly Tom responded to us.
Oh.
So
I do forgot
Are we
about
gonna watch
that.
the whole thing?
How long is it?
September.
At some point, we do need to get to Destiny. And
I
whatever it
forgot
is he
about
said
that.
About me.
Oh.
So
I do forgot Are we gonna watch the whole thing?
How long is it?
I believe it's like 8 minutes. Yeah.
8. Yeah. This is how the game is played. You've had the China shock. You've hollowed out your ability to manufacture, and you've cut all these jobs. That
Also,
I don't see it.
I know I'm pushing back on this, but like this is just
As they're talking, hey guys, could we get the computer 7 up?
a truism. People say this over and over again. You've hollowed out your manufacturing. You can't that's not true. The United States manufactures a ton of stuff. We just do later supply chain stuff. The idea that the US just does no manufacturing at all is just not true.
Okay, pause it.
This is just
so just in case he's misunderstanding my point, I will say this. It is, I don't think he will think that it's controversial, so I'm surprised why he's pushing on this. If he's listening to me beyond more than clips, he will understand that my point is you have a military adversary that controls a lot of your manufacturing.
Stop! Why do they always dance between both of these arguments? If you want to make the argument that we have to do something about our manufacturing for security reasons, that's fine, but that is separate from the national security argument. These are two distinctly different ideas that call for distinctly different policy approaches. These are two different things. Why do we keep jumping between both worlds?
A lot. I don't even need people to look any farther than drones. Like the amount of the supply chain of drones that they control is crazy town. As Ian Bremmer was saying, having chips that basically control our entire modern way of life 100 miles off the coast of China, a place that they have said many times that they want to reunify with, bad mojo. During COVID, we saw the things that we weren't able to get because they control it. So I'm perfectly willing to say, hey, we're doing really well on unemployment. AI is probably going to mean that the vast majority of jobs that we bring back here are going to go to robots anyway. So that isn't going to be the big point. Cool. Doesn't change my stance on the need to bring back some manufacturing to the U.S. I don't understand. So he would have to have the operating assumption that the thought of a war with China is so stupid.
Again, like so if you want to bring it back for military or national security reasons, fine. But this is I've just said it. It's a completely separate argument than the econ argument. Just don't roll these arguments together and you're fine. But if you want to have the national security argument, it has nothing to do with economics then.
Stupid. As to, like, don't even think about that. Globalism, yay. Never going to go to war with China. Then his thinking would make sense, but then we do not share that base assumption. Not that I think we're going to, but I think we have to be prepared for it.
Not a true thing. People keep saying this, but it's just not true.
There is a segment of the American population that without manufacturing jobs, there's been nothing for them. And so the whole learn to code meme it didn't work. Yeah. And so
that's fine. Learn to code didn't work, but learn to raise chickens in your own backyard because of the price of eggs, which is an unironic thing, by the way, that, who said this? Was it our Secretary of Agriculture? She actually I don't remember which lady said it, but that's okay. Like, learn to code was stupid and out of touch, but learn to manufacture textiles, that's okay? What?
If this actually goes full trade war, the debtor, the America, the people.
Yeah, I'm not sure why everybody jumps to the textile thing. I think because it is maximum.
Because he said we're not going to import anything. Because everything is being tariffed. I don't know who. It's okay. If you want to present your own economic policy, that's fine. But I don't know. I'm not sure what he's responding to in this video. Because he's not talking about anything that's happening in the United States right now. So I don't know why he's responding to my policy. Or he's responding with his own economic kind of like dream. And then he's pretending that I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about what the Trump administration is doing. The Trump admin is tariffing everything coming from China. If we're not making textiles, then we're going to be importing them at 130% tariff rate or whatever other tariff rate at whatever country. So that is what's on the table.
Everybody jumps to the textile thing. I think because it is maximum comedic impact
No, they jumped to the textiles thing because everything is going to be tariffed. In fact, the only stuff I've seen them exempt from tariffing are like fucking cell phones and microprocessors.
It lets you show those memes. Maybe textiles, but that certainly doesn't rank high on my immediate list of things to be thoughtful about. Immediate things to be thoughtful about: energy, technology, anything tied to warfare. Like those are going to be things you want to onshore, friendshore for sure.
Anything tied to warfare? You realize that encompasses basically every single possible thing that could ever vehicles. We have energy. Every single thing that a normal human being uses is in some way incorporated into warfare. I don't know.
So, I mean, period.
People who's buying most of this stuff ends up coming out on top versus China and other countries who sell other things to us. So it seems red now, but ultimately will net for our benefits if this gets to fully play out.
Yes. Now, I would ask people to put the emotional valence. It's a bit like Russia saying to Germany, we have more soldiers to kill in Stalingrad than you do. Because what's hiding in his words is, this will be bad. Yeah. We'll just survive it better than you. So it'll be a little bit worse for you than it will be for us. So I do not want people to hear in my recitation of him or what he's saying that this isn't going to be very choppy, as they say. Choppy means people losing money. Choppy means people freaking out. But Trump, if you can believe the words he says, if you can believe best.
And again, if you want to take this argument, then fine. But just you need to be honest about what you're saying, okay? Like, and I don't want to say that he's not being honest, okay? But when you say we need to bring manufacturing back, that's fine. But that needs to come now with a few understandings. One, if you want to build a factory in the U.S. to manufacture anything, you can already do that, okay? So why are we not doing it? We're not doing it because it's way more expensive to do. Not a little bit more expensive, but way more expensive. Hella expensive. All right, fine. Maybe it's way more expensive.
Okay, so this is where one has to start with the goal in mind. So if he and I are arguing at the tactical level, but we haven't agreed on what we're trying to achieve, it's entirely possible that my tactics would never lead him to the goal that he wants. And obviously possible that the tactics he wants will never lead to the goal that I want. So we both need to put our, what is the goal that we are trying to achieve out on the table? And then we can say, oh, damn, we actually don't even agree on the goal. We may, I don't know. But for making it nice and easy to respond to what I'm saying, my goal is that it's twofold. One, we want to bring manufacturing back for the people that do not have they don't interface with the world in a white collar way. That one feels like a low impact.
They don't interface with, wait, so he is talking about baseline manufacturing then? Or like textile-y stuff? I feel like we're getting back to the economic arguments now. Wait, so is it an economic thing or is it a national security thing? Because these two policies are going to play out completely differently from one another.
Argument, but it's nonetheless real for me, as I want to find a way for those people to thrive, and I don't have a better answer yet. But I think AI really is going to obliterate a lot of that. And so I do have sort of a blind act of faith that if we're manufacturing here, that there will be opportunities that I can't see yet that will be created. But that one admittedly is an act of faith. So if he or anybody else wants to say that's a weak argument, I'd say, yeah, that is a weak argument. The other one, though, which is, I think, extremely important, is we have to be able to defend ourselves. And so I don't think that that modern warfare will play out entirely at the level of cyber. So I think that there will still be elements of kinetic, even if they play out purely from a robotics standpoint. From everybody that I've heard talk on this subject, robotics, drones, those pipelines go through China. And so it is going to be more expensive to onshore that. But again, my operating base assumption is you have to find a way back to that. You have to be able to control the manufacturing of your modern way of life and of modern defense. You just have to. And so if he and I are going to argue, it might need to be about that. Do we actually need that? Is that real? Because if that base assumption is somehow wrong and he sees something that I'm missing, that's like, no. They don't control robotics or drones. You've been misinformed. Oh, okay, cool. Then where is that already with a friendly? I think we're going to find that I'm right about that, but I would be very open. That to me is just a fact-based thing.
Yeah.
If it is true that we do not control our own weapons technology pipelines, then you have to shore that up. If it's like, Tom, you're really missing a point. We're never going to go to war with China for these reasons. Then I go, ooh, I think he's right. We're never going to go to war with China. Cool. And then I would be like, yep, this has higher predictive validity over here. Again, I'd be so surprised if there's something that
Okay, I'm trying to be as charitable as I can. It is very, 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 very hard for me to believe that war with China is factoring into his calculations in any way, size, shape, or form. Because if they were, then there is no world where he would be okay. What the current administration is doing, insofar as our relationship with the rest of the world, makes his trade policy irrelevant. It doesn't. No matter what he's doing to try to shore up manufacturing or any of that stuff, all of that becomes instantly irrelevant when you look at the damage that that President Trump has done with our relationships with the rest of the world. So if a war with China is something you care about, that ground is immediately and entirely ceded due to the fact that Donald Trump cannot manage our relationships with anybody. So I just don't understand. I don't understand.
I'm missing on that, but I'm very open. But we keep not arguing at that level. And so this ends up being the Sam Harris Murray debate. Now, I don't know if my breakdown of their disagreement is entertaining. I thought a lot about that this weekend. I had ideas about how I could have made it more entertaining, and I resisted the impulse. And I was like, okay, listen, you said the parts that you really believed in the moment, having heard them collide. And some of this may be either he thinks he understands my base assumptions, but just never addresses them.
Is he talking about me? Or, okay, here are the base assumptions. You have two contradicting based assumptions. Or they're not contradicting, at least. They're just two totally different things. Okay, this is said as simply as possible. One, if your goal is to shore up national security, and you think that the best way to do that is to import supply lines or whatever that are vital to your interest, okay, then let's say that that is the case. Okay, the way that that would start is, step one would be identifying your friendly countries and identifying your enemy countries, okay? Let's assume, we'll say BRICS is the enemy, all right? Okay, we'll say that European countries and NATO are the allies, okay? Well, if that's the case, all right, how much manufacturing can we do in America? Because the reality is, of all the manufacturing you want, we probably can't do all of that. All right, that's just not possible. We just can't do it. Or we could, but it would be at great personal cost to the well-being of our citizens, okay? So let's look at all the friendly countries and let's see how much can we get from them. So maybe we just tariff countries, or maybe we don't import things that are vital to national security interests from countries that are enemies. Okay, so if they can make it in a NATO country, well, let's do that. If they can make it in a European country, let's do that. In fact, Donald Trump is so fucking anal about the, pay your NATO bill shit so much. Maybe part of that paying the bill can be you have to export or you have to manufacture certain things for United States consumption that has to do with our military supply lines. Okay, that's number one. Okay, it's still going to cost more and it's going to hurt a bit economically, but at the very least, we have the framework or the skeleton of some coherent national security supply chain plan at that point, because the answer has to be more than we'll make it all ourselves. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of his voice. It's this idea that we can manufacture everything is just not true. Tom knows this from business. You know this from business. You would never start a business where you're in-housing every single aspect of every single thing you do, okay? So I know that Tom does comic stuff. Now I could be wrong, but I've never heard him talk about manufacturing parchment. Okay, I've never heard him talk about bleeding fucking jellyfish dry for the inks that they use in their laser jet printers. Or I've never, right? You have a ton of different things that you bring in from outside sources to do whatever work you're specialized in. That's ordinary for an individual. It's ordinary for a company. It's ordinary for an industry, and it's ordinary for a country. Okay, it's ordinary for that's from the top down. That structure is not changing. So we have to eject that idea of we're going to make every single possible thing from start to finish here. That's just dumb. If you really want to do this, incorporate other countries, okay? That's the national security argument. On the economics argument, you can't go backwards economically. That idea just needs to be ejected. It's never been done in the history of all of mankind. If you want to do it, there's only one way to do it. And that way to do it is to no-fly zone over Ukraine and then start bombing Moscow with U.S. planes and then have nuclear winter when everybody starts nuking each other. And then after that, we can go back to baseline manufacturing. We can go back to having everybody farm and everybody putting doors on cars because that'll be the only technology left on the planet. All right? You cannot take steps back in your economy. Find other ways to train people. Find other types of jobs for them to move into for complementary position, or just fucking do a UBI or something. All of these things are infinitely better ideas than the fantasy of reshoring all of our old manufacturing jobs, okay? You can't go back to the old ways of manufacturing any more than you can go back in time.
Doesn't think of the world from the position of understand their base assumptions, understand the goal that they're trying to achieve, and then ask, do we share an end state? If we share an end state, do we agree on tactics? If we share an end state but disagree on tactics, what are the base assumptions that drive the belief that these would be the right tactics? I don't think there's any way he's mapping me as somebody who's just stuck on a team. That would be very surprising. So anyway, he's so smart. I would love his angle on like, okay, this is your base assumption. Here's why it's wrong. Like I'm fully here
I think I
to
just
have
did
my
that.
thinking sharpened.
But
But anyway,
I
every
don't know.
time we
We'll see.
interact, it's not at that level. We're admittedly not interacting directly. And I won't lie, I do love the like nature of React videos. So I unfortunately enjoy that part of it. Anyway, that's my take so far. Can I borrow the power cable? I'm about to die.
I do think that there's something interesting that we point out because you do talk about we need to get robotics here. We need to get drone manufacturing here. Drones, I know there's nothing we can do, but like Anduril and some of these new age military companies, they are based in the U.S.
And they're
Tesla
also the
is
ones
building-
screaming, hey, by the way, you can't let China control these fucking pipelines. So
show me that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I want to see one of these companies saying, hey, if the United States is going to remain safe and secure, we need to dig the widget ore out of the ground and make our own widgets. That's what I want to see one of those companies saying. I'd be shocked.
So when you've got the big companies that are doing this stuff saying must onshore, it's like they're the ones that are going to take a huge financial hit. I mean,
Well, it depends on what they're saying. If they're saying must onshore our level of manufacturing, well, that's obvious that they would say that because they stand to gain from it massively economically. That's the whole point of a protectionist policy. Of course, you're going to have some domestic companies that prefer that. But if they're saying that you're telling me that they're okay with not even being allowed to import any of the things that they buy, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a microsecond. I don't believe it.
obviously they can raise prices. Yeah, don't take it from me. Take it from the people
But
that make these.
I'm saying that to say that there is a push for these future tech companies to be built here between Figure, between the Optimus robot. So there is some presence of American warehousing and manufacturing happening now. So do you think this trade war just...
So wait, are you saying, Tom, we don't need to do all this crazy shit? It was already happening.
That's where I'm going. That was what the question was.
Got
Yes.
it. Okay. Perfect question. Amazing. You're putting your finger on the right thing. Okay, so here are the beliefs that drive me. As of right now, we have some companies, that are moving in the right direction, and that is amazing. Now the question is, how many hurdles are in their way? What's the ratio of we do to they do? Right now, it is my understanding that it is so wildly disproportionate, and you need look no further than the stat of China has built more ships. It's like either the last month or the last year. It's not less than that. They have built more ships in the last year than we've built since the end of World War II.
Are we like an air company though? Are we building?
Bro, what I'm saying is it is always whoever controls the seas controls the world. So you ignore a navy at your peril. What has happened is we've just stopped manufacturing. So we've got to be able to respond. So right now, we're in a position where we can't backfill our own weapons. So when Israel wants more weapons, when Ukraine wants more weapons, we're not able to backfill them. So it's my understanding that Russia right now is making them faster than we can because they're actively in war. You would expect them to ramp up.
Wasn't Russia begging North Korea for more artillery shells or whatever?
Up their pipelines. So I'm just saying the last thing you want to do is be caught flat-footed. You do not want China, who is watching your every single move. You don't want them to go, yeah, we've now produced enough. We are so far ahead of them. It will take them 5 years to catch up. And in that time, we will have reintegrated China. In that time, we will have what? I mean, I don't even want to, I don't consider them to be territorially imperialistic. I could be wrong about that. I've not looked deeply into it, but I'm perfectly willing to believe that they're not, that that's not what's driving them. But nonetheless, they want to be number one. So anyway, those are the things that drive my thinking. Now, if we were to look at that and it was like, oh, bro, no, we're already good. Like we're almost one-to-one parity with them in terms of the ability to build. Companies started making this shift.
2 decades ago, we're good. Then I would update my thinking and be like, oh, we don't need to do this. This is just creating economic chaos. This is mad. But I have not yet identified a single one of my assumptions from a credible source that says that I'm wrong about it. So it's not me making it up. This is me piecing things together, like things that I've heard from Palmer Luckey and Elon Musk, people that deal in robotics, people that deal in drones. And obviously they're not the only two. So, but if there's somebody out there with better information, I'm here for it.
Happy. You want to keep going?
Yeah.
So what? Okay, well, if we're going to say that it's way more expensive to do that, then we need to be honest when we say that that means that if we're going to tariff and we're going to rebuild whatever the fuck we're rebuilding, we're going to do it with an economy where everything costs more. Everything's going to be more expensive.
If it's not,
you're not going to be able to afford the same consumer goods. And you also need to be honest about unemployment. Unemployment was very low.
Yep.
The United States labor force was one of the most productive in the world. It will no longer be one of the most productive in the world because productivity is measured by the amount of output from an employee per hour worked. And when you're doing things like extracting coal from the ground or hammering fucking door windows into fucking cars, okay, these are just less productive jobs.
So
unless
I'm
you want to do this
beginning
weird thing, where- remember that
I'm beginning to understand the base assumptions that make up his mindset. Now, I very much could be wrong. I want to be very clear about that. But it sounds like to me, he's looking at this and going, globalism was an unmitigated good. This was amazing. Or maybe not.
Unmitigated good? No, come on. Why does it have to be so black and white? It's like people can't understand, like, hey, maybe there's a thing that had some issues. Sure, let's deal with those issues but like, no, we can't do that. Actually, it's impossible to deal with the issues. What we have to do instead is completely destroy the entire world order, destroy and reshape the entire world order because there might have been some bads. Come on, there must be a better way to think about this. There must be a better way to think about this.
Not unmitigated. There were downsides, but they're not downsides that create a price. They're not downsides that Trump's actions pay for at a reasonable price. I think would probably be the right way to say it. So I think where he and I disagree is just how seriously do we have to take being able to manufacture a select set of items. Yeah. So far, that has high predictability in this conversation.
Okay. And just to be clear, so far, what Trump is doing is not going to help us produce the things that Tom wants us to produce more of. Even if those were your end goals, Trump's current trajectory is not getting us closer to those goals, but both ways too. Now, some of them have said, okay, we're not bringing back those manufacturing jobs, Destiny. Obviously, that would be retarded. We're talking about automated jobs. Oh, then we're back at learn to code. So you're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States, but you're not bringing back all the jobs you said you were going to. That was a lie. You're just bringing back software development jobs, manufacturing jobs. Okay, so then you're making things more expensive. You're not bringing back the same jobs from before, and you're hurting our exports market as well because now every other country has tariffs on us. So you're only exporting to Americans that are now going to be made poor, that are going to have less demand. This is just, none of this works. Internally, it's not even there.
So pause it. So he's got a chain of logic, which is that you're going to make everything more expensive and we're not going to get a benefit out of this that is worth the price that we're going to have to pay. He at least has very clear internal logic. Again, the thing I keep coming back to is you cannot be in a position where you can't manufacture. So I'm willing to pay a price for that. Now, it's not an infinite price that I'd be willing to pay. And it is entirely possible that the way that Trump is going about this is completely foolish and that he should have been taking a far more measured approach, gone out, got some allies on our side, got people with us, and then, and only then, gone after doing something with China. And so I think there's a very good argument to be made. Ian Bremmer does a good job of summing this up, which is, man, you don't go after your allies and your enemies at the same time. This is crazy.
Hey,
and
true.
That may very well play out to be true. So the only counter argument to that I've seen that's compelling is, do you really think we would have gotten here, because I think David Sachs believes.
Don't say gotten here like we've gotten anywhere. And he's about to quote David Sachs. To be clear, our position has not improved on any front anywhere. It has not improved anywhere. We don't have any better trade deals. We don't have any better geostrategic anything going on anywhere. Well, hold on. I'm so sorry. It's improved You know what? Pretend that we're about to not pause for 5 minutes. Where's the fucking... I need the meme. Hold on. We have only improved in one area, okay?
I'm ruined. I have nothing left except Israel.
Israel just asked for another $10 billion, sir.
Tell him it's on the way.
This is the only thing we've improved on. So if your unitary measure of success is how close are we to Israel, my God, we've just promised to fucking bomb Iran, okay? That's the only thing that's improved, all right? Oh my God, I just had an epiphany. The Nazis and all the neo-Nazis and the Sam Hydes, they were so close. And the lefties, but they were so consumed with their hatred of Jews, they couldn't see the real problem. And the real problem were the Israeli Jews. It's them. They're the ones that are secretly in control of everything. It's the ones in Israel. Fuck.
That we're making very good progress. Do you think we would have gotten here by saying pretty please? He was like, you get the kind of concessions that we're about to get.
That we're about to get? Which concessions? What are the concessions? Which ones? What?
That we're going to need to get, and that we are already getting, to shift the trading, the global trading environment that will be necessary to disrupt for, I think they'd probably say for 2 reasons. 3. One, it's just not fair. They've got a whole fucking thing.
Can you please chill a bit with the Zog bullshit, at least qualify? I am so sorry. Itamar Levi. I'm sorry, that's not even funny. I just read his message's name. I'm sorry. My bad.
Trump administration has a thing for fairness. And it is hollowed out the middle class. And then you've got to be prepared from a military perspective. That's what I think the Trump administration thinks that they're bringing back. Now, again, I've been very clear on what my stance is. I don't think I need to repeat it again, but it is now becoming clear what his shtick is, which is keep the economy humming. You're asking us all to pay a price that's way too high. The way that Trump is going about this is...
And wait, Tom, the most important thing, in case I respond to another video, okay? Your end goals are not served by the current administration's trajectory. That's the most important thing. Because I do appreciate the way he reasons through things. And that is the most important thing. Your end goals are not served by the current administration's plans.
Nonsensical. I think he's conflating me with trying to have it both ways.
Well, because you explicitly mentioned the economic argument and the national security argument at the same time. It can't be. These things are just contradictory to one another. They just can't be at the same time. They just can't be at the same time. I have a guy who really needs to get more sleep and a guy who really wants to work and only sleep for 6 hours a day. Let's go ahead and get both of these done at the same time. That just can't happen.
But I get, if you're thinking I'm saying, hey, you've got to, like, you're going to employ people, working class people are going to be employed in these factories. And you think that's like the big, like, come on,
they're not going to be, though.
That's what we got to do, which I was way more hardcore on that in the beginning when I was first going down this road. So I certainly don't blame him for thinking that. I could see that, but there is a price to be paid. Anyway, there's more, I think, points of departure in terms of he thinks all prices will go up. I don't think all prices will go up. I think he's conflating the idea of inflation with rising prices, which sounds so dumb when you say it.
Oh, because he doesn't believe that inflation is rising prices. I know, because the tech world bought into the the abolish the Fed shit, and he's about to say it. Rising prices has nothing to do with inflation. Inflation is only how much money the Federal Reserve prints. That's what he's about to say.
Until you understand, Letnick explained this well, that if there are things made in America, there's no reason that those prices should go up. If things are being made somewhere else, then yes, if you tariff them, then those prices will go up. And if there's only one option you have, and it is the thing that is made elsewhere, then in that category, all prices will have gone up. But I think Trump is already signaling he's going to be...
Oh, I don't even know what categories of... Wait, that argument was even less coherent than I have heard in the past. What categories of things does he think we're not going to be... that aren't going to be affected? Like everything. We're tariffing the whole market. Everybody is being tariffed. Every single industry, every single thing, all of them are being tariffed. I don't understand why we're not understanding this. All of it is being tariffed. Everything.
He's sledgehammery, but then he backtracks and goes, okay, cool, I don't want to create too much chaos, and so we're going to make exemptions temporary or otherwise for these things, because he's aware.
Temporary exemptions on
exactly.
Chinese,
now he's saying that
like
they're temporary, but anyway. So
yeah.
All right, keep chugging, or we're never going to get through this.
Apparently it's not even there. Also, remember, one of the things I criticized before was people saying, like, oh, well, look, oil prices are dropping. Oh, well, that's okay, right? Oil prices are coming down. Oh, that's good then. Oil prices are dropping, right? The reason why oil prices are dropping right now is because of people think there's going to be a reduction in the demand for oil in the future. Okay, that's why oil prices are coming down, because when economies slow down, there's less of a demand for energy, and if there's less of a demand for energy, it means that people are going to produce less energy. Okay, now you might think you're clever and you go, okay, well, fine, Destiny. Maybe that's true, but isn't that still good? Doesn't that still mean at the very least we're going to get cheaper oil? No, because they won't continue to produce at that level. So while energy prices might come down temporarily, the only reason why fracking and everything else took off in the United States is because it was profitable to frack, is because oil price got high enough for it. People are not going to continue to drive down the cost of the goods that they sell just so that you can have a cheaper buy. At some point, U.S. energy is just going to slow down. They're just going to stop producing as much energy until the price reaches some kind of equilibrium where it's profitable to do so. Remember, a proven reserve is just how much it would net you in profit to go after some particular type of energy. If the cost of energy falls too much, then your proven reserves also decrease. Like,
hey, you guys have been ripping us off, and the way that I know you've been...
Oh, I thought he was going to call me out for stealing his content. Never mind.
Ripping us off is this math equation that says you guys are doing unfair things, because remember, there could be so much sleight of hand in the non-tariff trade, oh God, what do they call it? Barriers. The non-tariff trade barriers. So you guys, we looking at China say, hey, you might say you only have whatever, 7% tariffs. But the reality is you have all these non-tariff trade barriers. And so he gave an example. If we tried to ship McDonald's French fries and they said, oh, well, because you can't tell us where the potatoes come from, unfortunately, we're going to have to reject this.
The U.S. right now.
I like how people, I wish when people would say things like that. Remember, this is actually an error in thought. Don't be mean. If there exists a thing that seems really wacky or weird like that, you should know why it's there. Like, that should bother you. You're like, well, why does that thing exist? That seems really stupid. It seems like a really dumb rule, right? You should investigate and be able to answer that question. There's probably a reason, right? Probably.
Now, in 2025 has to change the trajectory that it's on.
Every empire...
Yeah, it's a Chesterton's fence thing, kind of, sure.
...that has ever existed has collapsed because of...
And also...
Sorry, I just can't let that one slide.
Football stats...
So he's saying no matter what they do, we should just assume that they have a reason for doing it.
No! I didn't say we should assume! Or like, you should assume, but you should investigate. You should find out why. No! I said go figure out. There's probably a reason. Find out what the reason is. What did I say exactly? Hold on. Seems really wacky or weird like that. You should know why it's there. Like, that should bother you. You're like, you should know why. Like, go... When I'm saying know why, am I saying know that there's a good reason? No, as in go find out. Well, why? Why does that thing exist? That seems really stupid. It seems like a really dumb rule, right? You should investigate and be able to answer that question. And
There's
answer probably a reason. Yes. Right?
Now, in 2025 has to change the trajectory that it's on.
Every empire.
And also,
the other guy just can't let that one slide.
Football stats.
So he's saying no matter what they do, we should just assume that they have a reason for doing it. That's pretty soft logic. But anyway, keep going.
That can't... No! I know exactly what he's about to say. This weird thing where it's like... People do this with elections. They do it with the NFL. They do it in everything. Where it's like, no person who has ever won New Hampshire and Iowa and whose birthday was in the first 6 months of the year has ever lost the primary in even years in the.
So curious to see if I am about
There's
to
always
do
like a thing, and he's about to bring up no country whose no countries whose spending on the interest to their debt is greater than the cost of their defense department. He doesn't end up saying this thing. I've heard this argument brought up though. I don't know who I heard this. It was a talking point for all like 7 seconds, where it was who was bringing this up? Was it Charlie Kirk? When the spending payments on your interest exceed the amount you spend on your military, it means your country is going to collapse. Like, where are we getting these? But I don't think he's not one of the people that does it, at least. It is like, first of all, how many empires are we even talking about here? Like 4? And then also, what the fuck are these numbers? How do they relate to each other? What?
Debt racing towards a fiscal cliff that is Armageddon.
The trajectory that it's on.
Every empire that has ever existed has collapsed because of debt racing towards a fiscal cliff that is Armageddon.
Oh, he's just saying debt. Well, that's an even dumber analysis.
Is it?
That doesn't make what? Like, listen. Like, what happened?
Come on, Destiny. What you got?
I had a ton of debt, so my life's over. Oh, so is that what happened? You got a ton of debt? Yeah. Why did you have a ton of debt? Well, I borrowed a fuck ton of money. I tried to gamble it all away, and then I had to borrow a whole bunch of money from some loan sharks, and then they cut my arms off, and then I had to borrow money from the bank for my house.
That's
and I
not how it plays out.
Oh. So wait, so how would you describe your failures again? Because of debt.
This is amazing.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
so this is fun. Destiny. The reason that empires fall because of debt is because they start money printing, and then they ultimately devalue their own currency, and it creates all kinds of problems. I'm so shorthanding all of this.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a fiscal review of every empire on the planet. I don't know the fiscal monetary policy of Rome. I would just be highly suspicious if that was true, given that every single country on the planet right now is engaged in some form of monetary policy, central banking, fiat currency system. Now, maybe it is the case that the libertarian, Silicon Valley types have actually solved this problem or figured out the key to all of empires failing. But yeah, I actually don't even know. I don't want to comment on Rome. Did Rome have a fiat currency, or was it precious metal? I don't know. But I doubt that. I just a lot of heuristics are saying this is probably not true, but I have no idea.
But to put it in a nutshell, that's when people go to war or a revolution. So,
but then also, again, was it because of oh my God, I'm so fucking smart. I know what I need to do now. I know what I need to do. Rome used Bitcoin? I thought it was Doge. No, I don't know what I need to do. No, I can figure it out. Hold on. Sorry. Did these empires flub because of the fact that they printed money, or was it because of the situations that led them into the whatever economic situation in the first place, Like, imagine you've got a person who's starving to death outside of a restaurant, and they're like, I'm not going to spend any money on my credit card because everybody I know that's had massive credit card debt has ended up, dying. And then they just die of starvation. I'm like, fuck. I'm almost done with this fucking planet. Let me use the restroom. Fuck. I drank this blue soda. It was okay. 180 calories, though. 40 grams of sugar. Oh my God. How many grams of sugar in a Red Bull? $38 grams of sugar. Okay, well, fuck you. Damn. Why did the U.S. revolt against the British? Just taxes? Yeah, I guess it feels like a reductive take like that. Like, why did the Civil War happen? States' rights. Why did the U.S. revolt against the British? Because of taxes. Well, no, not really. But, what are you going to do? Have you heard of closed currencies? The concept is so fucking wild, Limfeo. I have a closed currency that I used to trade with your mom for anal sex. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha. Oh, thank God. Aspen's Gold subreddit just become fucking pure fucking far right. Can you give me one great tip for helping my kids excel in school? I grew in a really shitty neighborhood, and I know you went to private school, so is there any advice you can give? Teach them how to cheat on tests really well. Although the teachers have... You've got cell phones. I feel like you could cheat in crazy ways. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I'm going to make this commitment right now. Assuming this country still exists. I will spend $200,000 of my personal money organizing. If there is a Democratic candidate for president in 2028 that promises to trade Donald Trump for the Abrego Garcia dude in that El Salvador prison, okay? I want that to be the next Democrat candidate. Okay, please, God. Yes. Please, God, yes. I will support you. Let me use a restaurant. 1 second. Or restroom. I said restaurant. When can we have the next research arc? DGG Brain is after I beat Factorio, okay? Listen, you guys want me to get addicted again, so here we are. Fuck you. Also, politics sucks right now because this administration is crazy. 1 sec. I put that aim point on my Benelli. It feels completely and totally ridiculous and unnecessary, but now I'm just waiting for my scope to come in on my AR-15, and then we're ready to get into the streets and go and shoot at the range. Why is this not loading? Sorry, hold on.
He knows. Do you have any questions, please? Go ahead, let's not start with CNN, because it's so. Because it's so. Let's not start with CNN, because it's so.
What are we laughing at? I don't even know what happened. Did I miss something?
What? No, that's nice. Suck.
Do you have any questions, please?
President Trump?
Go ahead, let's not start with CNN, because it's.
Oh, he's laughing about him not answering questions from the media because he doesn't like that publication. Fucking epic. Fucking epic.
So.
Oh my God, bro, Mr. President. Bro, 12 more years, guys. 12 more years of this.
I talked about this previously, where I showed you China's Secretary of Education. But I want to show you someone.
Okay, hold on. Just two quick things. One, Atrioc, okay, remember, unironically makes fun of House and says that it's not a very realistic show because of all the pranking they do, okay? So he's already on thin ice. Two, apparently he made fun of my gold take, saying that technically at this point in the markets right now, gold is overperforming stocks, okay? So, fuck you, Atrioc, all right? Doubly fuck you, all right? But we'll still steal his content, all right?
Else. Like, just for example, Korea is currently if you do like school rankings, Korea's #1 in the world. Again, there's problems with some of these nations where they perform incredibly well on tests, but there's a lot of pressure. There's a higher suicide rate. But this guy is a serious man. He's got 3 degrees in economics, bachelor's and master's from the best university in Korea, and a doctorate from Cornell. And then I would mention that our current Secretary of Education is Linda McMahon of the WWE. She was in WrestleMania 7. The reason I bring that up again is because she just had a speech where she talked about how technology is changing lives for
Oh no. A1. Oh no.
students. She's saying she's heard a report that kids in first grade kindergarten will have A1 teaching. And she'll explain.
Pre-Ks have A1 teaching, every year starting, that far down in the grades. And that's a wonderful thing. Kids are...
I'm assuming she means A1 top-notch teaching. I assume she means like top tier. Let's see if she clarifies.
Wasn't all that long ago that we're going to have internet in our schools. Whoop. Now, okay, let's see A1 and how...
Like she has no idea what AI is at all, right? So she must have gotten like a speech or something prepared for her. Like somebody prepared something where they're like, hey, here, just read this. And she looked at it, she memorized the talking points, and then she just goes out to give a speech. And it's, man, bro,
She means AI.
Bro.
She means AI. This is our Secretary of Education in this country. This is the biggest issue in education right now. We have ChatGPT cheating rampant through all of grade school, high school, and college. And our Secretary of Education doesn't even know it's called AI. She thinks it's A1. It's just beyond cooked. I cannot debate this on a principal merit. This is incompetence at the highest, deepest level. Now, I love steak sauce as much as the next guy, but much like a well-done steak, we are cooked. We are in a country where 60% of people aren't reading at a 6th grade level. And instead of addressing that, we have this woman, this woman's face. She's holding in the laugh. Oh, motherfucker. A1, dude, my jaw dropped when I saw that clip. I couldn't believe that was real.
Hater
it's
alert.
Intentional. And, dude, it's so funny. People that say this are almost as bad. You just have the same level of conspiracy theory brain rot. No,
True.
It's not. It's just Occam's razor.
Yes.
You can actually just follow that. They're just
stupid.
off the
They're just
news
stupid.
from the last day.
Yeah, that's
There
it.
is no plan. That is the scariest part, actually.
Yeah.
There is no plan. It is just incompetence. There's no 400D chess. Every single rationale given for almost all these decisions, but especially the tariffs, gets thrown away the second they switch to a new strategy. It gets pivoted. First, it was for an external revenue service, but now there's no money coming in. It was going to get rid of the income tax. It was going to bring iPhone jobs to America, but that's got exempted. It was going to rebalance trade with every other country, but now it's only on China. Now it's all part of a plan to contain China. By the way, not to, again, I know we forget about things more than 2 years old, but there was a plan in 2014 to create a free trade network with the USA and every major Asian trading economy. Japan, South Korea, I think India was, who else was in it? And it was called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. It was every country but China. We were going to create a network that boxed out China and left USA as one of the dominant trading partners in Asia. The first thing Trump did in 2016 is get us out of TPP. And now we are 8 years later and $1 short and trying to, in the aggregate, recreate TPP. But only after pissing off every one of these countries.
Yeah, only worse
we're
in
in a
every
worse
single
negotiating
way.
position. We pissed off all these countries, and now we're trying to tariff them 10%, but also get them to agree to create some sort of network that boxes in China. It's just stupid, man. And it's frustrating me because I can't say this 10 times. I say it once. I've said it. What else do I want to say? I'm getting annoyed. I just want to play Blueprints now. It's just frustrating. Hey, Big Ed, my crowdfunded board game company is not liking these tariffs. Don't worry, I got the plans for my American factory since these tariffs are not going to last. Are going to last. I don't know if you're joking or not, but I do want to bring up the tweet I made today because there's been a big update in the world of tariffs. A little timeline here, right? First, we had no tariffs, right? And then we had massive tariffs on the entire world. Okay. And then the market reacted appropriately, total chaos and panic. And so Trump blinked and he said, well, not the whole world, mostly China, but 10% on the world. And then things didn't get better. Things didn't get better. I mean, they briefly got better. They started getting worse again. And then he said, we're waiting on a call from Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping didn't call. And they started panicking. And then all the businesses started calling Trump, including Apple. Tim Cook had like 14 calls with the White House, basically saying, hey, this is going to fuck us over. You have to change it. And then so today we got massive tariff on China still, except for computers, microchips, and phones. Interesting. I wonder if those happen to be the single most exported things from China. Like number one and number two by far. So now we have a massive tariff on China that doesn't apply to any of the big businesses that import from China, laptops and computers. So you know what the number three thing is imported from China after computers, phones?
What?
It's toys. Toys/puzzles. So we aren't protecting our smartphone industry or computer industry. It's a little bit odd. I wasn't sure what the point of these were. I thought when I listened to Howard Lutnick just a few days ago, he told me...
Remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists.
So I thought the iPhone was coming to America. So I started studying how to build iPhone. I was ChatGPTing it, dude. I don't know how to work the little screwdriver, but I wanted to learn because I thought that the job was coming here. And then not but a few days later, suddenly, out of the blue, we have an exemption for computers and phones. So I guess those industries are fine to stay in China, those high-tech ones, but we will get to keep trying to claw back the cheap toy industry. And you know what's crazy is that these tariffs only apply to the finished good. So if you are an American computer company that imports parts from China and then builds the laptop, well, that's fucking expensive. You can't get the parts. But if you buy the full laptop from China, that's no tariff at all. So all we've done is subsidize China's laptop industry. In a way, this tariff is literally destroying American competition to make Chinese complete computers and phones better. Dude, I cannot overstate the level of incompetence. I was talking with Adish about this. I just want to say this. I'm kind of going a little bit mask off.
It's like it's just credentials do matter. Expertise does matter. Education is important. You kind of need to know what you're doing, and that's just not at all what's going on right now.
Because there's nothing else to say about the way these tariffs have been handled. It's complete top to bottom incompetence, no 5D chess. It's like the Roman Emperor Nero level cell phone. I was talking to Aish and I said, I honestly thought this year I would have to have a more balanced clips channel or something. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was gonna have to like have some clips that are like, oh, that's a good point. And then some that are like, there's nothing. I've been giving nothing to work with. This is deep, lasting structural damage to the country I live in. Every single thing gets like randomly said, thrown out. They have a reason that doesn't really make sense, but then they don't even stick to the reason, then it walked back. And these exemptions, you know, again, I want you to understand again what's going on here is like in a world where there are 0 tariffs or 400% tariffs, but everything is exempt, there's no difference, right? Theoretically. But there's actually one major difference. The difference is that everybody has to call and beg and have favors and tricks to the leader to get on the exemption list. Yeah. So it's just a more corrupt world. Yep. All it is like the big insider companies like Apple, who have connections and money, can call and get on the exemption list. So they're still working. But any small business that doesn't have that is and so trade is still happening with China. Jobs aren't coming back. But now there's like this weird middleman through the government that have extra power on. And 2 things happen with this deal that are also disgusting. One is that a bunch of people, we have a ton of insider call buying on Apple right before they get exempted. And this happened before the last.
You are a total fucking idiot if you are not insider trading in this economy. Why would you not? Why would you not be insider trading right now when the Trump administration has made it perfectly clear that they're not even going to be going after people that are engaged in this kind of stuff? Why would you not be insider trading?
Last tariff announcement, not only is this creating this huge uncertainty premium that makes all U.S. assets less valuable, it makes every single stock and our debt and everything less valuable because everybody has to price in a level of uncertainty because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We are also seeing just mass corruption of like every time one of these moves gets announced, somebody's getting rich off of it with insider knowledge. It's just frustrating. You know, we're having insider trading and we're having corruption, and also tariffs don't make sense. Everything they say they're for keeps getting walked back. Howard Lutnick literally is making an ass of himself saying we're going to bring iPhone jobs, and then the iPhone's the one thing that's exempt. But the parts aren't, so you can't even make your own here. But anyway, I guess this will bring back cheap toy making jobs. At the rate we're going, bro, we're going to be making cheap shirts for China. We're going to be making cheap shirts for China. China will rise up the value chain. They'll make all the complete tech products, and we can open our sweatshops here to make shirts for them. It'll be awesome. That'll be great. At the same time, you know, I'm not even told you sewing this, but like, we are seeing a repricing of the world reserve currency away from the USD into essentially right now gold. We don't know what else it'll be. Countries are not holding the dollar. The dollar keeps devaluing, and they're putting it into the one stable tradable asset. I don't know, man. They're just, everything is, what I'm trying to say is like, it's backfiring even more than you'd imagine. It's backfiring not just on the tariffs, it's backfiring to the point where even if you remove the tariffs, it's almost too late. It's not just the tariffs now, it is now this uncertainty premium that is applied. It's everyone getting out because of risk. It is a risk of incompetence factor that is that is so baked into the assets. And just speaking of incompetence, I talked about this before, but man, did I get a example today. US-made electronics pay duties on imported material parts, but imports of the full electronics that contain the same material and parts are exempt. This is a China subsidy, moving US industry from high value added into socks and lettuce. It's wild. And what I'm saying is small businesses like this guy.
All right, I hate asking for help. I'm not asking for any handouts, but I'm a small business owner that is directly being affected by the 104% tariff. I import alloy wheels for cars. At 104%, I am absolutely going to implode and will not last 6 months.
I feel terrible for that guy. It's so incompetent. Like the idea that that guy who's buying cheap wheels made in China and
Mr. Beast chimed in on the tariff argument, saying that the rest of the world doesn't have a 20% tariff on cocoa beans, making it cheaper to produce outside of the U.S., and he is a U.S. producer. Yes. Remember, that's the weird thing about. It's not. It's just. I don't have words. I don't have words. I can't talk intelligently about this. There's nothing to say, right? This is like. It's like somebody buying a set of these grippers for an army of 12-year-olds, training them for 6 months, and then giving them plastic bags to squeeze. And then instead of doing heart transplants, filling the bags with blood and having them follow around people that would have heart transplants with these now trained up 10-and-a-half-year-olds pumping the blood for them in the bag. And that's like the new unironic idea that's being presented for how we're going to keep heart transplant victims alive. So they don't have to deal with your immune system rejecting a donor heart. Like, that's like the level of absurdity. This is the level of absurdity that we're on. Like, because let's say that you make shirts, and let's say that you can do all of it in the United States. You've actually lost the entire world now as a consumer base because everybody has reciprocally, that's a word, right? Reciprocity. I'm going to reciprocate. He reciprocated. They reciprocally. That's not a word. That can't be a word. Reciprocatively. Practically. The rest of the world reciprocates tariffs on us. And now you can't export if you manufacture in the United States. So now you've even hurt U.S. manufacturers because now you can't export at all.
Reciprocate.
That's not the one I was looking for. It's just so stupid.
And then creating the value-added larger structure and then
reciprocally. Wait, what? That doesn't sound like a real word. Maybe it is.
Selling that is bad for America, and that we need to tariff that is insane. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's easy to get like Schadenfreude or, get a feeling of, haha, you had it coming for leopards at your own face.
Except this is going to actually destroy
I generally think, I don't even care if you have empathy or not. I just think some of you are like, you think you're heroic. Like you're fighting the enemy, and I feel like you're like Donald Trump's greatest recruiters. I feel like you're like, you work for him. I feel like you do your best to make sure no one can ever cross the line or ever.
For free.
I seriously think you guys are like his biggest help, his biggest asset in the world when you say something like that. But I'm not going to get too into it. Anyway, what I wanted to say
No politics here, guys.
So many people are being hurt by this. Not just that guy. Again, I was talking with a guy who owns a small business in LA who imports like light bulbs and fixtures and sockets and then builds these beautiful light pieces, like these custom light pieces for like hotels and big business lobbies and things like that. They're f***ed. I mean, if the tariffs don't change, they're f***ed. And they don't have an insider call the way Tim Cook does to call and get an exemption, which we got from.
That's one of the grossest things too. And I don't know how you guys got tricked into thinking all these billionaire people are your friends. When we watched that show, the All in Trump's Ass podcast or whatever the fuck with the Chamath guy, and he's like, yeah, man, but like this administration's cool because I can just make a phone call and I can get my friend's business on the tariff exemption list, and that's not like corrupt or anything. That's just like, it's just like a cool thing. Like, it's just so absurd, bro. Oh my God.
Again, the whole point of this, if there was any point at all, would be to bring the high-value, high-tech industries to America. Chips, computers, high-end stuff. Instead, we are exempting those things because that'll hurt the market. Not only is it dumb, but it's also cowardly. He's also shown that he has no backbone or spine for his own negotiating position and is actually going to be a panicking. He actually backs down the second there's any pressure.
He's done that. He's backed down over and over and over. Look at these back and forths. Has China done anything to change their position? God, China is what I wanted Canada and Mexico and the EU to be. God, China's... they're just... Is China goated? I don't think China's changed their position at all. They're just like, reciprocal tariffs? More? Okay. It's just...
An L on both fronts. Is tech from other countries still tariffed? Every other country is tariffed at 10%. All their tariffs have been paused outside of China. Though I think a lot of the tariffs haven't even been collected yet. As I've seen the timeline, you know, it's just Trump, tariff China, China retaliates, Trump, bigger tariff on China, China retaliates. Trump says, I want Xi Jinping to call me. China does nothing, doesn't call him. Trump says, I'm ready to make a deal. China doesn't do anything. Then, masterful gambit, Trump rolls back the tariffs on China's 2 largest traded items. I don't even have a dumb leader. I have a leader with no spine. I got a leader that can't even, who says, like, don't worry, we'll get through this. We have to do a little pain for, he doesn't even.
And like I said, like, there are 3 Trumps. There are 3 Trumps. The first Trump was terrible, a horrible, sad, disgusting day for the United States. The second Trump would have been even worse. And right now what we have is the third Trump, who is a weak man, a weak, cowardly, spineless man, authoritarian fascist. The second Trump was the imaginary Trump promised to us by the worshipers of the first Trump. He's a crazy man, and every country on the planet fears an insane man who could at any point in time take you out if you're not comporting with the rules, if you're not doing what... And, you know, and I'm going to be honest because I'm a human being, okay? 90% of me wanted to see the Ukraine-Russian war resolved peacefully. 90% of me wanted to see the Gaza-Israeli conflict resolved peacefully. And there's that 10% that does political commentary online. That's an emotional movement where I'm like, I want to see this motherfucker fail, okay? I want to see this mother. Fuck this guy. Fuck Trump. Okay. But like, you know, we should want these conflicts to resolve peacefully no matter what. But now we got like the worst version of everything. At the very least, Trump 2 should have come in. Like if Trump 2 was the promised Trump. Trump 2 was the guy who was going to come in and look at Putin and go, I'm 83 years old, motherfucker. You don't think I'll do it? Leave Ukraine right now or I will. I'll push the button. I don't even know what the fuck this button does and I'll push it. And then it's like, fuck, maybe Putin does reconsider. He's like, fuck, okay. I'll leave Ukraine. I'll figure some shit out. That was the Trump that was promised to us. We got the worst version of every possible Trump world.
Even believe it. It's just making my country significantly weaker in a very short period of time. Rip or dip tomorrow? Nobody knows the answer to that question, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a rally, especially among tech stocks, with everything being exempt. But the longer term trend is negative because of the uncertainty. Like there's going to be a bunch of little daily headline scatters, but the trend.
The audacity for Trump to brag that one day when he was like, this is the highest stock market day of fucking all time or whatever. It's like, are you fucking serious right now, bruh? Are you serious right now?
Is negative because people are just repricing all American assets for political risk. This is what they do for like emerging market countries. What's happening when your yields are whenever your cost of borrowing is rising and your currency is plummeting? That only happens in like emerging markets going through like deep political instability, where business people cannot predictably rely on what's going to happen. There's too much risk of just political uncertainty, of things being applied by the government. So it's bad, dude. It's bad. I sincerely expected to have to argue more with ideas on news.
Oh, A-Track, Babby's first foray into the world of kind of politics. I remember when I felt this way back in 2016. I thought we were going to be talking about politics, guys. What happened?
And in clips, and I have to like break down why I didn't think certain things would work. What I'm finding more and more is that I'm just arguing with total deranged incompetence.
Crazy
like, there's no
lunatics.
strategy. There's no plan. Dude, I saw this post. This is so good. This is from a few days ago. China has 3 options. Concede defeat to whatever terms Trump demands. Devalue the yuan by 20 to 40%. Unleash the biggest fiscal stimulus in history, talking 2-3 trillion, which will push its debt off the chart. Option 4, not listed. Wait 3 days. Option 4, wait 3 days,
True.
72 hours. And without a call, it'll back down. I don't know. And then the fact that, Tim Cook donates $1 million to the inauguration.
Disgusting.
He's there in person.
That's also disgusting too. Dude, these fucking these loser tech bros. God, I hate them all. Oh my God, I'm gonna become a Luddite in the worst way. These guys didn't do anything. They rolled over Trump. Ooh, Trump. Oh, you're so cool, Trump. Oh. They rolled over in the bitchiest, pussiest fucking way possible. All these fucking tech bros that were learning their jujitsu and MMA to get fucking checkmated that quickly, that easily. Unreal, dude. Get me the fuck out of this planet. So disgusting.
Person, and then every small business that imports shit from China is fucked, but he gets to make the phone call, and and now Apple's exempt. Yup, trap. I don't blame Tim Cook at all. Tim Cook is the supply chain master. He knew that he had to spend $1 million because he knew this was going to happen. It's not Tim Cook's fault for adapting his business to the insane banana republic environment we're in. I'm letting Tim Cook. It's just frustrating that the guy we watched earlier, he can't make that call. The guy I talked to in person 2 days ago, who runs the lighting business, he can't make that call. But Tim Cook can. Aiden will make the calls. I mean, hopefully Aiden can make the call for Mogul merch.
Oh, no.
God willing, Aiden can get Trump on the horn and get an exemption for hoodies that have Slime's face on it. But Ludwig will need to wear a MAGA hat on stream. That's the environment we're in, where everybody has to go and ask for favors or give favors to the leaders.
Yeah.
It's just, there's this big government middleman now. Yeah, it's cronyism. And at the same time, this new headline comes out, someone is bought ahead of time. So someone has insider knowledge. You know, I barely even bring that up because that's like shockingly so low on the list.
It is, right? Yeah, that's like, we don't even talk about that because it's like, bro, of all the shit that's happening right now, that's not like not even, it's just not even close to, it doesn't even register anymore. It doesn't even register anymore.
There's like a couple people making a few million off insider trading, but it's just annoying. It's just annoying that every one of these headlines has someone front running it, and you can see it. You can see them buying calls right before the headline goes out. I guess last thing, dude, I'm kind of just summing up I think I'm crashing out.
A-Track, your new best friend. A-Track puts out the best, like, would I say apolitical, non-political content? He's got a good thought process, and he has a good brain for it, and he's like nonpartisan, I think, maybe.
Out a bit. I'm just crashing out a bit because I've already said this, right? The problem is I don't like to repeat myself too much, and I feel like if someone's watched the clips or whatever, they know my stance on these things. But I think
it's hard to like give any kind of new political analysis on any of it, though. Like, what do you even fucking say? Like, what can you even say about any of this? It's like
the exemption today. I think it really made it clear that there not only is no plan, I kind of knew that, but that there's no spine on the lack of plan, which is not just clear to me. It is clear to every world leader now. Yeah. That anything he acts tough on, they know that if there's a financial or marketplace backlash, he will not be able to hold his ground. It adds a lot of uncertainty and risk into a market that I have already, for months, felt was recessionary, that we've already had spending slowdowns. We've already had fewer and fewer good job opportunities, more and more like gig work, more and more. You know, I've been saying this for a while, but specifically since
I don't believe the gig work
video.
Meme, but.
And so to go into that powder keg, I already thought it would be like, this is unstable. But these type of actions make it so it can go dramatically wrong, and it can go so much. Things can break. Like, we can have real deep structural cracks in the financial system with this level of uncertainty. It's just a big repricing that has to go on. At the same time, dude, you know, one of the things that's very near and dear to me that I talk about so much is the unsustainability of our debt. And it is, again, frustrating to have an administration that talked so much about balancing it do the exact opposite. It is only getting worse. And this,
like, what's the line? At what point do the Drumpels finally go, okay, yeah, they failed on every single thing. Every single thing, right? Doge, 2 trillion, 1 trillion, 500 billion, 150 billion, 50 billion. Maybe now. Now we're at 50 billion for Doge. How many failures? And we're not even, hold on. How many days ago was Trump elected president? Google, you should just give the answer to this. Are we even at 100 days yet? I don't even think we're at 100 days yet.
This is not the environment we want to be in when we're going to have to print to bail out a broken system. Again, the Federal Reserve just said 2 days ago that they're ready and willing to do all means necessary to backstop the system or whatever. They were trying to calm markets, but it just made markets more scared. Because if the Federal Reserve is saying that, that means we're almost at an oh shit moment. We're almost at a moment where we have to print money to buy our own debt. And when you're doing that, when you're in like that late Japan phase.
I asked my dad, who's very MAGA, what the line was, and he said, when they start burning Jews. I wish he was kidding. Yeah, but and I said this before, and you really need to get your mind around this better. And I've been too late to get my mind around this. Those lines are the word games are what you have to pay attention to, because they technically don't ever betray any of their principles. They just redefine the words in order to make it work. Like, the sentences are full of, what are they in programming, variables or whatever that you can just like redefine at any point in time. So like you said, my dad said that the line is when they start burning Jews. But what'll happen is the Trump administration will find 100 Jews and they'll say, these aren't Jews, these are Orthodox West Bank settlers who make babies and make it hard for the United States to conduct foreign policy. That's why they're being burned or whatever. And they've been convicted. Like, there'll always be a way to redefine it so that it's actually A-okay. We've seen them do this with all the deportations and everything. Like, they just...
and we're already
insane.
at 120% debt to GDP, running 2.6 trillion run rate deficits. It's just not possible. It's going to destroy the currency. I mean, it's just going to, the dollar will start getting dramatically worse quickly, and it's already getting worse, dude. Anyway, I need to have more to say than this sucks. Right now, it's also new that I'm just telling you it sucks. If you're American, it sucks. If you're not American, it probably sucks for you. If you live in the West, it probably sucks for you. It's going to cause economic pain that's going to ripple outside of America. Maybe if you're paid in Swiss franc, you're kind of like, this is cool. I'm doing my best to really sound the alarm on this specifically. I really think this is the one thing that is very convenient for everyone to ignore. And
oh yeah, are they going to ignore the courts? They're not going to ignore the courts. What do you mean they're not going to ignore the courts? They're literally ignoring a 9-0 ruling. No, they're not. That 9-0 ruling was for them. Oh, that's the game we're playing. My bad. I didn't even consider that we could just lie about how the court ruled. It just wasn't even in my... It was a failure of my imagination. As Olena, was that her name, would say?
Will lead to pain. And I want to try and look for a candidate or a solution who really takes this seriously. Not just says it, but really takes it seriously. Because this is, if you look at history, this always ends in disaster. Always. Real pain for regular people. That's where I'm at. So I'll be keeping my eye open. I really am. I'm watching and trying to find who I feel really comfortable throwing my support behind. Because I'm hoping for someone who, I definitely want someone with strong moral character as a given, but I also want someone who understands this and can give it the deep focus it deserves. Like, this is not a joke. Yeah, I think it's probably Squeaks or Clint Stevens, right? Maybe a Squeaks, Clint Stevens. Clint would give one executive order every 2 years. He's a real Reaganite, dude. He's a real small government.
Cute. Jesus.